providing more analysis regarding the latest updates of the United States elections. Joining us from Washington is Mindy Walker, a former White House advisor and Republican strategist, and Joelle Rubin, a former State Department advisor. Well, very warm welcome to our program, and it's our pleasure to have you with us. We start off with Ms. Walker. Given Trump's recent claims of widespread election fraud in Pennsylvania, how do you assess the Republican Party's strategy to address voter integrity without any evidence or substantial evidence? Okay, we move on to Mr. Rubin. A very warm welcome, sir. Sir, with Vice President Harris actively reaching out to younger voters, what specific initiatives do you think are crucial for mobilizing this demographic ahead of the election?
You and I am in Pittsburgh as well, my hometown where I grew up, and I'm here for the final days of the election. And it's quite an interesting conversation that we're having with young voters. Young voters care deeply about the future of American democracy. They want it to continue. They also care about the long-term issues that the country will need to confront, issues like climate change, issues like gun violence, issues like investing in education and healthcare, and an economy that is there for them as they grow in their professional careers. So this is what they're really talking about. But of course, the one core issue that comes up all the time, especially amongst young women, is the right for those women to make decisions about their own healthcare and their own bodies. And this is the abortion debate. And so young voters are very strongly in favor right now of the Democratic agenda, out of a concern that the Republican agenda takes into account what they're hoping the country will look like in the future.
Sir, how do you see the engagement of the young voters and how do you see this is going to add to Kamala Harris's campaign or election, as of course we're waiting for the results of who is going to be on the Oval Table in the White House next Wednesday?
Well, look, historically, there's been this idea in American politics that young people don't vote. But that's different now in the age that is of social media, where young people are highly engaged on issues of concern in the political dialogue. This is not something that we had 20 years ago, and certainly not when I was younger several decades ago. I read the newspaper, but that was it. But now young people under age 18 are very engaged politically. And so they're going to come out and vote. And they're going to come out and vote in numbers that I believe will be unprecedented. And they also, and this is very important, they do not participate in the kind of polling that we see being discussed in public right now. Those pollsters overwhelmingly get likely voters based upon past performance and older voters. So the young vote is not being captured in those polls, and they are coming out strong in early voting, and they'll continue to come out strong on election day, and they are a surprise factor in this coming election.
Amazing, sir. I'll be back again. Ms. Walker, do you believe the controversy surrounding Trump's rallies will affect Republican voter turnout and sentiment in the upcoming election?
I think that the rallies have been invigorating. I love how our American liberal media has gone and accused Trump of being like Hitler and accusing people like me of being Nazis. It wasn't even, Madison Square Garden is not the same Madison Square Garden that the Nazi rally was held in. What I saw was a lot of people who love America. And I think a lot of us are being tired of being called names. I think it's very interesting that my friends, conservative or liberal, have taken issue with what President Trump has said about certain individuals, and yet they are not standing up against an entire party that calls us garbage, deplorables.
It started with Trump. This started in a rally at Trump's campaign, not at Kamala Harris's campaign or at the Republicans' campaign. I'm just justifying the case here. It's none of my business. I just wanted to make clear that when someone was said, it was a comedian that went out and said that Puerto Ricans are floating garbage or whatever he said. I don't really care.
Yes, a comedian, not President Trump, not someone who's...
Excuse me, a comedian, not President Trump. A comedian is like a politician, exactly.
President Trump
leave alone the entire
America
situation.
a garbage can.
So, and they didn't say that Puerto Ricans were garbage.
Mr. Rubin, do you want to say something?
Yeah, President Trump, it's just, I understand why my colleague doesn't want to own up to the fact that President Trump has called America a garbage can more than 24 times in the last week, but he has. Kamala Harris has not. And so I hear a lot of huffing and puffing from the Republicans because they're worried about what took place at Madison Square Garden. They understand that the hate speech coming, and it was not just the garbage comment, there were deeply anti-Semitic insults made. There were racist insults made. There are attacks on immigrants made. And I don't think that they should be at all upset that Americans don't want to hear it. Why should Americans
ridiculous.
have to hear hate speech? Why should we have to hear it? I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish, and I heard a Jewish anti-Semitic remark, and I didn't hear anybody condemn it from that stage. Why should I have to hear that and say nothing in response?
I'm a first-generation American. My mother was a Korean citizen when I was born. Just because you like to pick and choose things, I think you should take a look at your party that is not heavily supporting of Israel if you're speaking to anti-Semitic.
That's actually, again, yeah, I'm sorry.
I think
if
that you're very
describe Israel.
partisan.
If you're going to describe support for Israel, I think that we can have a long debate about that. But what I'm saying is that when people from a stage attack Jews, Puerto Rico, LGBTQ people, name it, the people who are targets are allowed to say we don't like it.
All you did was try to flip around what I said. The comment was made about Puerto Rico being a garbage state, not that Puerto Ricans were garbage. And yet the current president
now you're justifying
called
it.
Republicans and people supporting
you think
Trump
that was a good comment?
garbage. I think you are inflaming.
No.
You're fanning the flames, which your party
I'm
has
not.
done
You're
very
the one.
well over the last 10 years.
I'm sorry.
Again, Hillary Clinton called us deplorables.
I'm sorry.
Did nothing.
I'm sorry. You're talking
so
about
it's perfectly
something
fine when you're attacking conservatives, calling us racist, homophobes, anti-Semitic, but you can't take your own comments. And I think that's very interesting.
So this dialogue is instructive of the problem that we have right now in our politics, which is that one side launches diatribes against another, the other says we don't like it. They're attacked for saying we don't like it. I want to step back for a second and get to the question that was at hand, which is the question about the island of Puerto Rico being described as a floating pile of garbage. I think that's a direct quote. That did not come out of isolation. That was not a one-time statement. That was coming after multiple comments by Donald Trump saying that America is a garbage bin. So at a certain point, people say enough.
In the last 4 years, with your party in control, crime is up.
Talking about other things. You're not talking about Donald Trump and the current campaign.
21% inflation, and you're talking about LGBTQ.
That's factually inaccurate.
Not being able to afford to live.
Inflation was 21% in 1979. I don't know what you're talking about. The high point was 8.5%. It currently, according to today's results,
21% over 4 years ago. Don't try.
That's not mathematically how
lie.
That's not how you mathematically assess inflation. And the current rate is 2.1%. I don't know what you're talking about.
You clearly don't.
You're literally making up.
Okay, Ms. Walker, with the Pennsylvania judge extending early voting hours and the Supreme Court's recent decisions favoring Republican interests, what do you see as the potential implications for the GOP's electoral strategy in swing states?
Yes, well, I think that the Republicans are very focused on election integrity. whether or not people believe that there was widespread issues in the last election, many states violated their own constitutions. And so this year, before the election, a lot of organizations have been suing states that have not been as active on election integrity. Pennsylvania being one.
That's a false claim. I have to say, what was just stated, the viewers need to understand that no court agreed with that position.
I'm sorry. Were you asked the question?
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay if he
falsehoods
answers.
to be
It's okay.
Falsehoods. It's not an answer when it's a lie.
Excuse me. I love that my colleague loves to lob attacks and speak when I've been asked a question. But I would like to reclaim my time.
I'm not going to allow lies to go unresponded to.
Okay, Mr. Rubin, finally, in light of the recent racist remarks at Trump's rallies, how should the Democratic Party respond to ensure they effectively address racial issues, sir, at this point? And please, we're running out of time, sir.
What we're doing, which is building a multiracial coalition and having someone at the top of the ticket who does not engage in racism. That's what we do. That's what the Democratic Party does. And I think that's what the American people understand is different between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, who built a career on race baiting and trying to divide the American people.
Okay, in 10 seconds, sir, and Miss, of course, Mindy Walker, 5 days before the U.S. presidential elections, who do you think will be the winner? As, of course, everything is very tight and the race is very tight, neck to neck.
I believe that Donald Trump will emerge victorious. When we see major newspapers...
Why do you believe?
When we see major newspapers refusing to endorse Kamala Harris.
They were criticized, by the way.
When we see teams,
there's all their subscribers gave up on them.
I'm sorry, am I able to finish the question?
Go ahead.
So, liberal newspapers have refused to endorse Kamala Harris. The Teamsters, which are overwhelmingly
okay. Mr. Rubin, your words, please, because I have to wrap up this episode now.
The short of it is Kamala Harris is in a much better position than Donald Trump today. Donald Trump will try to throw up court cases to steal the election from the American people like he did 4 years ago, and they will lose in court like they did 4 years ago. And over time, the true winner will be Kamala Harris. But I will not say that until we see the votes counted and the election, and I believe that we will have a safe, free, and fair election.
On behalf, of course, of everyone here, we wish both best of luck. And that was Mindy Walker, a former White House advisor and Republican strategist, and Joelle Rubin, a former State Department advisor. Thank you both for your insights.